unless the town board does the rezoning. Rezoning is a big step. We had last time declared ourselves to be the lead agency, not declared ourselves, we had requested permission to declare ourselves as lead agency, and we had sent out letters to the various agencies who would be involved, the Erie County Planning, the Highway, the Health Department, et cetera, DLT, and we haven't got some responses. Did you gentlemen get those responses?
Yeah, that's the last packet we sent out, I believe, correct? With 15 pages maybe?
Yeah, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. There's a few more that came in, and then I had requested our town planner to have everything addressed to the supervisor with CCs to Jim, myself, the chairman of the planning board, and the planner too, so we have a coordination of efforts here, so that everything is stamped in and recorded and stuff like that. So Corey, would you just give a brief explanation of what we're doing?
Yeah, you did a great
Please.
job kind of setting the table for me. But as Mike said, my past life I was in the public sector, worked with the Association of Towns. I have to say I changed teams when I moved to Buffalo. Now I mostly represent builders and developers. But that gives me a really unique perspective on this whole process because I know it intimately from teaching towns how to administer the process and also what to expect from developers because I represent them. I serve as special counsel to many towns to review individual projects like this when a large project comes in because of my familiarity with the process and the procedures. So, as Mike stated, this is a legislative process at the front end. It is an applicant asking you to amend your town zoning map to accommodate their development proposal. And in order for a rezoning to be constitutional and to be upheld, to uphold judicial scrutiny, every rezoning must be in accordance with the comprehensive plan. That is the standard. So when rezoning a parcel, what the town board is required to do is look at your comprehensive plan and basically ask yourself, does this plan envision what's being proposed by the developer, or is our vision for the town as demonstrated by our comprehensive plan and the way we see our town developing, does it say something different than what they're proposing? If you determine that the comprehensive plan envisions what they want to do, then you're free to approve it. You don't have to, but you're free to approve it. But if the comprehensive plan clearly states that this is not in the vision of the future of the town, you would not be entitled to approve the rezoning. So that's kind of the threshold question that's coming in. Before you can take any action on it, you have to comply with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. So anytime before a board funds or approves, in this case approves an action, you must comply with SECR. The action here being the rezoning. And SECR requires you to look not just at the specific thing that's before the board, but when you're the lead agency or the agency charged with reviewing the environmental significance of the project, you have to look at the whole project. So you have to look at the entire development of what they're proposing. In this case, the commercial component, the single-family subdivision, the apartments, future hotel use, because your determination of significance, which is whether or not the action will have at least one potentially significant environmental impact, once you make that determination, that environmental process for all the following approvals, from the zoning board if they need variances, from the planning board's recommendation for subdivision and site plan approval, your SECR determination at the rezoning level ends the process and you will not revisit environmental impacts for any part of the project moving forward. So it's a fairly large decision that you're making. Now, one thing I said was you have to comply with SECR before you fund or approve a project. If the board, at looking at the comprehensive materials that have been submitted, is of the general feeling that this is not something that the town is interested in entertaining, you are not required to comply with SECR to deny an approval. So while you have to make a determination of significance before you approve it, if the majority of the board feels that this isn't something that you want to entertain, you need not make a determination of significance to deny. And in fact, if that's the route the board ends up going, my recommendation would be not to make a determination of significance, only because it can be used against you in litigation by the applicant moving forward. I.e., they'll say, well, you said there wasn't going to be any environmental impacts because you issued a negative declaration, but then you denied it anyway, and they would use that against you moving forward. So there's a lot of front-end stuff that goes into this. That's why the applicant has submitted a traffic study, a wetlands report, a determination from the Office of Parks and Recreation, because they're trying to show you all the environmental issues and get the environmental issues out front. So where we are is we've started the secret process, and the way we started the secret process is we have evidence preliminarily the town board's intent to act as the lead agent pursuant to secret. And once you evidence the intent, because an application has been submitted to you with an environmental assessment form, the first step is you identify all of the interested and involved agencies. Involved agencies are agencies that may have some approval authority as part of the process. So here it would include, as Mike stated, the Department of Transportation, Boston State Road being under their jurisdiction, the Erie County Highway, Erie County Department of Sewerage Management, the Department of Environmental Conservation for the stormwater and other approvals that they need, Army Corps of Engineers for wetland issues. We've sent out letters to all the interested agencies. Before I got involved, Mike and the town planner sent out letters declaring the town board's intent to act as the lead agency. That's a 30-day process, meaning if all of the interested agencies don't respond within 30 days, then you can move forward. If they respond earlier, you can move forward earlier, but it's usually considered to be a 30-day process. And it appears to me that that process has been completed, that no one has objected to the town board acting as the lead agent pursuant to seeker. So the next step in the process will be, when the town board is ready to do so, is to declare yourself lead agency, which would be done by a resolution. Motion would be made, Mike would prepare a resolution saying, we've done our lead agency solicitation, we've got the letters back, we're declaring ourselves lead agent. And then there is a window of time for you to make the actual determination of significance. Now sometimes it's confusing because here a negative declaration is actually a good thing for the applicant. Negative declaration means there will not be any potentially significant environmental impact. A positive declaration, on the other hand, means there will be at least one potentially significant environmental impact. And all that means is that the applicant has to prepare an environmental impact statement, which is governed by the regulations, the secret regulations in Part 617. It's a document which will contain many of the materials that they've already submitted, where they analyze the potentially significant environmental impacts, they explain how they will mitigate them, and once the environmental impact statement review process is completed, then the board is permitted to take action on the underlying approval. You can still deny it after the environmental impact statement is submitted, but that's basically the landscape. So you're starting a process that can either be short or long. It would be short if you said, we're just going to deny it. We find that this is not in conformance with our comprehensive plan, and so we deny the rezoning. Done. If there's some thought that this may be something the town wants to entertain, then you make a determination of significance. If you determine there will not be at least one potentially significant environmental impact, you issue the negative declaration. Seeker's over at that point. Seeker's done. Then you can move forward with approving or denying. Or you determine there will be at least one potentially significant environmental impact, and we enter into a 2 to 4 month environmental review, where the applicant is required to prepare and submit his environmental impact statement for you guys to review and digest. There's some back and forth where you say, we don't think you gave us enough information about this, why don't you go back, submit a new one. Once you feel that that document is complete, you then accept the environmental impact statement. There's other intricacies that I'm glossing over, I'm giving you kind of the big picture. But it's a big project. It's definitely a considerable project, and one that I'm sure the town will want to thoroughly review. And I am not here to tell you to approve or deny. I'm here to tell you, here's the procedures, and to make sure that you follow the procedures, and to make sure that the developer follows the appropriate procedures. Oftentimes, a developer's attorney will try to steamroll you and push you in a certain direction. I'm here to insulate you and say, the board has 30 days to make this decision. They can take some time. They don't need to decide today, those sort of things. And then just answer whatever legal questions that you have about the process. Is this a permissible consideration for us to review? Is this something that is plausible to require an environmental impact statement? Those sort of practice-related questions. Jim will be reviewing the technical details of any submittals, and I'll be just guiding you through procedural issues and legal issues. Needless to say, I've been on both sides of these developments, representing towns, reviewing them, representing developers, so I can give you the full perspective as where things are.
Okay, and Corey, if I could just add to that, where we are now, in the whole process that Corey just explained, is the applicant had submitted his information, and we had sent out a letter asking for permission, or declaring our intent to be lead agency. We'll probably do it at the next board meeting, and after that, then the board would then, correct me if I'm wrong, 20 days to determine significance. Which means that Jim, myself, and you know, hopefully Corey, will then have to go through and see if there is significance. The board will have to do their due diligence and feel as though, yeah, if there would be a significant environmental impact to this project. And then issue a report within 20 days, correct? Okay,
Well,
so
within
sometime-
20 days is to make the determination of significance, to either decide, and look, you guys meet every month, so it's not like you have to call a special meeting 20 days. If it's 30 days, that's okay. It's not like they're gonna rush to the courthouse and say, you haven't made your determination of significance. That'd be foolish for a developer to do that. But that window, the 20 days prescribed by the regulations, is for you to make your determination of significance once you have declared yourself lead agency. Because then, if you determine that there's a potentially significant environmental impact, the environmental impact statement process can take 2 to 4 months. They submit a draft. Well, first you do scoping. Scoping is where you flesh out what those environmental issues are, get the non-environmental issues out of the way, and just focus on those that are significant. Then they focus their draft environmental impact statement on the significant environmental issues you've identified. They prepare a draft document for your review. There's a window of time for you to look at it and either say, yes, we find this to be complete, or no, we want you to provide us further information about this, this, and this. There's timeframes that govern all those things, but the backs and the forths. They're not jurisdictional timeframes, meaning it's not if you miss it, you lose, but it's their guidance. It's supposed to guide the process and push it along.
Have you had the chance to, have you overviewed the comprehensive plan yet?
I've once.
Overview, that's what I mean, exactly
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
assuming.
yeah.
It looks to me as though it roughly fits. Do you see any glaring issues with it, or Jim, did you? Other than the residential component, which,
It's
That's
not well written, first of
oh, it's
all.
horrible, right?
Yeah,
And it's ancient.
and the maps are kind of confusing with all the hatch, and I'm not sure if we're looking at it, quite properly or not. It is difficult to read that map, and it's difficult to interpret, but I think, from my understanding of it, is that they're wanting more commercial development up there than residential.
Right, and that's kind of what that lot was sort of destined for, is light industrial.
Yeah,
Right.
and we were just looking at the map on his computer, it looks like it's supposed to be a view shed.
Yeah, it's a view shed protection area.
So anything that's constructed there needs to meet with whatever the criteria are for setting the view shed.
Criteria from 25 years ago?
Yeah,
Criteria
and
from
that's
now?
the plan recommendation is that you,
It's a fairly obsolete document.
Yes,
in the
okay.
plan, now, it's glad you brought that up. So, where I started was, a rezoning must be in conformance with the comprehensive plan. But a comprehensive plan is more than just a written document, okay? It's not that it must only be what's contained within those pages. The comprehensive plan is also the town's general vision. It's the written document, yes, but it's also where you believe the town is going and what you believe the future of the town is. It's where you expect the town to be in the future. So if there's a thought that this site is destined for some other greater use, even if that's not in the document, that can be still, if you can show that that's been part of a political or a governmental process, you're not confined strictly to what's in the document. I'll just really honest with you about comprehensive plan. I find things in the comprehensive plan to help or hurt, whichever way you go. You can pick out this sentence here which says one thing, and this sentence here that says another thing, and it either supports or goes against you.
My
This is
point
why
is,
we love them.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you have a 25-year-old document,
Right.
yeah,
and I think if you read that comprehensive plan, you're gonna read into it what you want it to say. A lot of that.
Right, right.
If you go through the whole thing, you're gonna find things that you like and that you don't like. And this part of town is very similar.
Okay, have you worked with Sean?
I know Sean exceedingly well,
I would assume, that's why I asked.
because we are at the same meetings, you know, in the same
Over
towns
and over and
over the
over.
last 10 years.
Right.
And, you know,
Yeah, our dealings with him have seemed to be relatively fair, relatively even-handed. He hasn't pulled a fast one on me personally or us as a
Yeah.
board that I'm aware of.
And I say tongue in cheek to Mike, you know, Sean's almost as smart as me.
Almost,
Yeah.
right.
So, but, you know, the good thing about, you know, the good thing about having a lawyer who knows what they're doing is, it makes a defensible approval just as much as it does a defensible denial, right?
Right.
So Sean will know that if this board approves the project, every I is gonna be dotted and T is gonna be crossed, that if somebody on Meadow, for example, decides to challenge the rezoning,
Oh, they're going
at
to.
least all the procedures will have been followed.
Yeah,
So
they're
whether
going
this
to.
board
I mean, so
approves or
go in
denies-
thinking that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
because it is going to
Yeah,
happen.
whether this board approves or denies the rezoning, the procedures are gonna have been perfect. And so if you're looking to overturn it on a procedural ground, they're gonna lose that opportunity. And oftentimes, that's where people get you, is on procedure, is you didn't refer it pursuant to 239M of the general municipal law, or you didn't make appropriate findings pursuant to seeker. This is a legislative act, right? There's a presumption of validity of every legislative act, that what you do is valid and constitutional and appropriate. A challenger has to overcome that presumption in order to be successful. So if your procedures are all right, you take about 75% of the firepower away from a potential challenger.
Beautiful, because I want it to be bulletproof.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, I'd just like to chime in. You know, like I said, Corey's here tonight, it is, you know, just kind of advise the board in terms of what's, you know, coming down the road. Because we have to face it, we have to make decisions, we have to declare a lead agency, we have to have a report, impact statement. A lot of this stuff is new and very specialized. And I would like to have him on board, you know, with the board and with the town, for exactly the same reason that he said. And Jim, did you want to add anything, you know, in terms of Corey's assistance in the project and stuff?
Well, yeah, normally, on small projects, I will administer seeker. This is not a small project, it's a huge project. We've already pretty much determined it's a type 1 because of the request for rezoning involves a significant amount of property. I think a type 1 action threshold is 25 acres.
Yes.
And so if you approve the rezoning, then you're permanently changing the allowable uses for that area. So for the most part, this is beyond what I feel comfortable with. You know, I work in part-time for your board. So I kind of made the introduction from Corey to Mike. Worked with Corey before, I know he's very knowledgeable. And, you know, and not, same thing with Sean, I know he's very knowledgeable too. I want us to have the same
Which one's
kind of, well, so,
Sean's
they're
taller.
wearing different hats
Sean's
for
taller.
this, so, I'm just gonna say that I'm much more comfortable having a little bit of expertise behind me, and also somebody that can spend a little more time on it too, because, you know, my function here with Boston has been really kind of just part-time consulting, as needed. So, this is much more intense. We've already got the procedure started. We've sent out the notifications, Sarah and Mike have done that. They went out somewhere around the middle of March.
Right, return of
And
8%.
They're all back. It's time to take the next step, not necessarily tonight, but probably by the 5th of July, where your next meeting,
Right.
lead agency status needs to happen. And everybody all the involved agencies, no one has had an objection to the town board being lead agency.
The documents from the Army Corps of Engineers that popped through, those are both positive too. It looks like they're.
They confirmed the applicant's wetland biologist report,
Okay, good.
and they identified 3 wetlands. One in the developer's report said they believed was isolated, meaning that it doesn't have a nexus to the navigable waters of the United States, and therefore is not under the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers. The other two do have that required nexus and are under the jurisdiction. They submitted that to the Army Corps confirmed the report and said, yes, we are gonna make a jurisdictional determination in keeping with your report, which means that for the applicant to impact those jurisdictional wetlands, it will require a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers to fill or replace fill in those wetland areas. Not anything out of the ordinary. It's I think it's 0.4 acres of wetland, they'll have to do compensatory mitigation, and I would anticipate they'd be able to achieve the permitting that they need for that.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Okay, so I think, you know, any other questions from the board, any board members and stuff?
Should we be discussing any additional?
Well, what I like to, if the board is interested, and I would support, Corey be retained for this, specific project. I would think it'd probably only fair to Corey if you would submit a proposed retainer and a proposed budget to the
Sure.
board.
Sure.
You can fax it to the supervisor, send me a copy
Sure.
and get it out, and then, but I'm in favor of bringing him on board, and I've not asked for a whole lot of assistance in 8 years, and
Right,
but I do
exactly.
recognize when there is a situation here that I think the town needs to be fully up to speed on our end, and Sean Hopkins is very good, but Sean Hopkins is also on the other side. So.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. All right, gentlemen, I think that's it.
Fair enough?
Excellent.
Perfect, perfect. And thanks for your input too, Jim, also.
Okay,
Always valued.
yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Jimmy, you have that?
Yeah.
When's a good time to go forward? I have some things that I need to get together with you and look at.
Come tomorrow. I'll be in at 8 to 5.
Best number?
You got it.
945.
All right.
128.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
Jay, have a good night. Okay.